This just in from disclosure_rise_25.
What if those really deep feelings you have, pain, joy, what if they're not just yours? Like maybe there's some kind of cosmic feedback. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're getting into some really profound sources on Kabbalah. We're looking at Rav Yehuda Ashlag, Baal Hassalam, and some fascinating insights from the Zohar.
That's right. And our goal here is really to shed light on these complex ideas, unity, suffering, joy, and then, interestingly, connect it all to something very contemporary. Ambassador Josiah Haltom's, unique spiritual legal ideas.
Yeah, get ready to explore how your own spiritual work and maybe our collective actions too might actually play a part in cosmic repair and even divine revelation. It's quite a trip, really, into understanding ourselves and the universe better. Okay, so let's jump in. Rav Yehuda Ashlag, he had this kind of radical take on pain. When you feel that spiritual pain, that distance from the Creator, it feels so personal. But he's saying it's more than that.
Exactly. He explains that pain, it's actually reflecting the Shekinah's own anguish, the Shekinah being the divine presence, the common soul of Israel, as he puts it, and humanity. We're like an organ of the Holy Shekinah.
An organ, like part of a body?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So just like an organ suffers if it gets detached,
yeah,
the individual soul feels pain, and so does the Shekinah when there's separation. It's almost a divine mechanism pushing you back towards connection.
Pushing you away from just thinking about yourself.
Right. Away from personal gain towards the Shekinah's unification. There's that saying, when a man regrets, what does Shekinah say? It is lighter than my head, really showing her sorrow over that distance.
Wow. Okay. That reframes pain completely. So then what about joy? If pain is this collective signal.
Joy works in a similar way, interestingly. When you feel that closeness, that connection to holiness, that feeling isn't just for your own enjoyment, not primarily.
That's also a reflection.
Yes, it's reflecting joy above within the Holy Shekinah. Why? Because she's managed to bring you, her private organ, closer. It drives home that idea. The joy for the part, it is only a part of the joy of the whole.
So both feelings, pain, and joy, they're like feedback, guiding us.
Exactly. Feedback for aligning with the divine purpose.
Okay, so if these feelings guide us, what's the ultimate shift we're supposed to make? What's the core transformation here?
It boils down to correcting what Kabbalah calls the will to receive. This is like the basic operating system of creation. The Creator put it there to benefit his creations.
But we usually just receive for ourselves, naturally.
That's the default, yes. Receiving for self-benefit. The whole point, the correction, is to transform that into receiving for the sake of bestowal.
Receiving to give.
Receiving in order to uplift, to give back, essentially. Doing that brings contentment above and fulfills why we're even here. It's also how we create that dira b'takton, like a dwelling place for God down here, especially through mitzvah commandments done with the right intention.
So intention isn't just a mental thing. It's like spiritually active. It actually impacts the divine. But how does my little intention scale up? How does individual work affect the whole universe?
That's a huge question. In the Zohar, it offers this concept. I kind of think of it like a quantum computation of oneness. It's this idea that our collective human focus, our Kavanaugh, our intention and mindfulness, and our actions, they can actually activate and channel divine light, the Shefa.
Like we're collectively computing or manifesting God's oneness.
Sort of. Accelerating its revelation, you could say, because ultimately everything is connected through the Ein Sof, the infinite light.
That's mind-bending. Are there practical examples in the text? How did they see this spiritual computation working?
Oh, absolutely. The Zohar, in the section Metzora, for instance, talks about these purification rituals. 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet, hyssop.
Right. I remember those.
They weren't just symbolic gestures. They were seen as almost spiritual algorithms. Cleansing Zaret, often linked to bad speech, pride, self-centeredness. It directly relates to the Shekinah's presence. It says, when a man is defiled, the Shekinah departs from him.
So the ritual helps bring the presence back.
Exactly. And things like Karana Mudra, these symbolic physical actions, they suggest that purposeful acts literally change spiritual realities. They expel the blockages.
Okay, so we've gone from inner feelings to cosmic connection to ancient rituals. How does any of this connect to, now, to our modern world, like law and society?
Well, this is where Ambassador Josiah Haltom's work comes in, and it's pretty fascinating. He essentially builds a bridge from these mystical ideas right into current issues. He pushes for integrating divine law, or at least its principles, into our secular systems.
How does he do that?
He looks at things like structural violence, economic inequality, racism, ideology clashes, and calls it systemic idolatry. He argues it actually violates not just moral principles, but the U.S. Constitution and what the founders called the laws of nature and of nature's God.
Wow. And that additional sense AI thing he mentioned.
Yeah, that seems to refer to a kind of advanced spiritual cognitive framework, something that can synthesize massive amounts of knowledge to apply these divine principles effectively for the common good.
So for Haltom, Tikkun Olam, repairing the world isn't just a spiritual goal, it's a legal one too, a societal duty.
Precisely. When he argues for things like judicial mercy as constitutional duty or making sure legal remedies align with divine justice, he's basically applying that Kabbalistic idea of the will to bestow on a societal level.
Trying to foster the common good to bring about that contentment above.
Exactly. It's a pretty radical attempt to reorient our collective intention, society's intention, towards a divine purpose right within our existing structures.
So wrapping this up, we've journeyed from seeing pain and joy, not just as personal, but as cosmic signals.
Right. Feedback from the Shekinah.
We talked about transforming that basic will to receive into something higher, receiving to bestow.
And how our collective intention, that spiritual computation, can actually help reveal divine oneness.
Then we saw how Ambassador Haltom connects all this ancient wisdom to modern challenges, arguing that justice itself is part of this divine revelation.
It really brings it down to earth, showing how fixing societal problems, pursuing justice, is tied into that ultimate goal, the revelation of God's oneness and the complete union of the divine.
So after all that, what's the takeaway for you listening right now?
Maybe consider this. What if how you understand your own daily hits of pain and joy and the choices you make, especially consciously trying to shift from just getting to giving, what if that's not small? What if it's actually your direct contribution to the biggest project there is?
Contributing to cosmic harmony, to the unification of the divine, right here, right now.
Yeah. It's a powerful thought. It makes your personal journey feel deeply fundamentally connected to everything else.
And it empowers you, maybe, to see how even small shifts in intention can have a real spiritual impact. Something profound to think about.